John Arvosis here. Long weekend. Well, not a long weekend, but just a normal weekend, but it still was nice and long. Hope everybody's doing fine. Adjusting my angles. There we go. Another beautiful day. Well, it was a nasty day here in Chicago and went from being a nasty, horrific, thundery day. I like thundery days, but my dog doesn't, to a very nice day now. Blue skies and lovely. Anyway, hello, everybody. Hope everybody's well. There isn't a ton. It's funny. There isn't a ton to talk about. There's good news from Ukraine, but it's not a ton of news. And I think that's partially because the government is intentionally called for a bit of a blackout. But we'll talk about that in a second. I'll give maybe another half minute to a minute just to let folks come on, and we'll jump right in. But hope everybody's well. I'm John Arvosis here, normally in Washington, D.C., but visiting Chicago for the next several weeks to see Ma. So hope all are well. And wearing my own copy of the Ukrainian T-shirt. Again, as I was telling folks, it's funny. In camera, it doesn't show off as well in the camera. It's a much darker shirt, but at least on YouTube, it's looking very light because of the light reflection. It's great. No, I love this thing. It's really, my favorite is the little hearts because they're printed sort of on their own. So I like that they're kind of all over the place. Anyway, very happy. And if you like it too, you can buy it on the store. Aravosis.com is the store. All right, guys, let me dive right in because we've got a good number of folks already online. As I said, I'm John Arvosis here in Chicago, normally Washington, D.C., but Chicago for the next few weeks. And I am here to talk to you about the latest from Ukraine. Now, today, interestingly, is maybe the beginning of the big Ukrainian counteroffensive that we've all been waiting for. As you know, we've been hearing for a couple months now that Ukraine was getting ready for a big attack of their own against the Russians, and they were going to put the Russians on the defensive and take back some of their land and all this kind of stuff, right? In the meantime, the Ukrainians have been busy for the last 2 months doing what are called shaping exercises or shaping moves in the military, which basically means getting the battlefield ready for the big battle to come. And in this case, for the Ukrainians, it was blowing up Russian ammunition depots and storage, blowing up Russian command and control centers, which basically would be local military headquarters, so that the troops on the ground wouldn't be able to get directions what to do, and the military wouldn't be able to coordinate them because the local headquarters were blown up, right? Going after Russian air bases, going after Russian airplanes, again, making it so that when the big battle comes, the Russians don't have the planes to hit you, okay? And then transportation hubs and things like that, like trains and stuff like that. So that's been going on for a couple months now, and we've all been waiting for the big counterattack that's coming next. Today may have signaled the big counterattack. The only reason I give the caveat is a lot of folks are saying this also may be a target of opportunity. In other words, this isn't the beginning of the huge Ukrainian, ground troops and tanks start taking their cities back. This could have been the Ukrainians saw an opportunity. I'll talk to you about it, and let's go through what actually happened. I just am trying to give you a little bit of nuance that don't necessarily believe the hype that this is the beginning of the huge counter war. It may be the beginning of the little counter war. We don't know yet. So here's what happened. Having said that, Jim Sciutto, who's a really good reporter on CNN, who I follow and who I ran into the street once in Washington, D.C. in my neighborhood, I was like, Jim. I even called him Jim. And then I realized I don't know you. Listen to this. Former Ukrainian President Poroshenko just told us on the air that the operation is underway. Thank you, Inspired Woman. I should have said, I love when you guys give me the gifts on TikTok. So please do. I will try to do shout outs when I see them. On YouTube, etc. Love the super chat questions, and the chat questions go in the comments box, and you guys chat questions. Better if you can go to my profile and use the Q&A link. That's an easier place for me to see them. So listen to this. So Poroshenko, the former Ukrainian president before Zelensky, says this is the long-awaited counteroffensive operation. So he's saying it is. It was started today at 7 a.m. with shelling and missile attack. This is the first time since February 2022 when such a concentrated he's saying, I'm sorry, this is the first, I'm going to translate because he got some of the prepositions wrong. This is the first time since February 2022 that a concentrated Ukrainian troops with Western artillery, it's kind of weird, and with Western HIMARS and Western missiles was collected together for this counterattack. So you get the point. Again, this is what's getting interesting because he's saying this is a massive counterattack. We're hearing from other people it may not be. Anyway, what the Ukrainians did, I will pull up my handy dandy map here because it's the easiest to show you. They've attacked from at least 4 different points near Kherson. Now, Kherson, I will show you here, you may recall, and Kherson is the region, by the way, that the Ukrainians have been putting, I would say, most of their attacks in the last couple months. So they clearly were signaling, it seemed, that Kherson was where they were going to begin the counterattack. So just to pull this up, like I said, in my pictures here. All righty. Favorites. I had it ready before, and then, of course, it lost. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so this is, wait a minute, I grabbed the wrong map, of course. This is the problem of doing live TV that isn't TV. Here we go. All right. This one I like. Okay, I've got this, and I'll go close for you guys. The red dot is the town of Kherson. The area below it is the whole region of Kherson, and the Ukrainians are attacking from the north. So pretty much they're attacking, I'm going to show you next, in that red area, but coming from the north to that red area. You see Kyiv at the top. You see Crimea, the peninsula, on the bottom. Okay, Kharkiv in the northeast. Again, for you guys, the same thing. So pretty much, I've got it backwards. Hang on. I will shift my screen here for you all on TikTok. There we go. There you go. So you can see Kyiv in the north, the capital, Kharkiv in the northeast. The red dot is Kharkiv, Kherson, the city, and that red line going across is the various areas in the front right now. And again, imagine the Ukrainian troops coming down from the top at them. So there's at least 4 different areas they came down in. There are at least 4 villages that the Ukrainians reportedly have liberated today, which is great news. I mean, they're just villages, but still, it's a step in the right direction. Also, another interesting thing happened today, that explosions went off in the Russian town of Belgorod. And there's some video, I'm going to put it up on TikTok after we're done, of the Russians pretty much freaking out and fleeing the town. Like the train station got filled with people. There were bombs going off overhead, explosions. Then there was Russian anti-aircraft fire, which freaked people out even more. And I'm going to pull this up, Belgorod, to show you. Belgorod is the Russian town that is across the border from Ukraine, and it's just across the border, okay? So I'm going to show you here. Here. This is the town of Kharkiv in Ukraine, and then you see northeast of it, the town of Belgorod. That total distance between the two is maybe 40 miles, so maybe 60 kilometers between Kharkiv and Belgorod, okay? Kharkiv and Belgorod, there you go. And again, maybe 40 miles, 60 kilometers. So Kharkiv to the border is maybe 15 miles. Belgorod to the border is maybe 25 miles. So very close. Well, something happened. The Belgorodians are freaking out and fleeing town. So it's clear whatever the Ukrainians are doing, they aren't just attacking in that southern region by Kherson. They're also going in that northeastern region just across from Kharkiv. Again, we'll see what they're doing, but I think this is a bit of a feint. Well, not a feint, but they're almost trying to freak the Russians out and play with them a little, because the Russians now think everything's happening in Kharkiv, and now they're saying something at Belgorod. Now, Belgorod, and of course, as I start the show, oh my God, the two of them. As I start the show, Mom's dog's got to freak out. Hey, okay, that's enough. Okay, stop. She's getting old, and she looks at the TV. They were showing tennis. She was convinced it was an animal. That's all I can guess in my doggy psychiatry. So they've attacked multiple points north of the Dnipro River. You'll also recall, so I talked about 4 points that the Ukrainians seemed to be 4 or 5 the Ukrainians seemed to be hitting from, right, in the northern part of the Kherson province. What is interesting is the Ukrainians are hitting along the river, or just north of the river, or actually it would be like northwest of the river. This is the same river where the Ukrainians have been constantly bombing the bridges for the last 2 months. Remember how they've been hitting these 3 bridges and hitting them again and again, potholes in them so that the bridges got so damaged. The bridges didn't necessarily collapse. It's hard to collapse bridges, especially with the kind of bombs the Ukrainians have, but they're able to put potholes in the bridges to the point where the bridges are no longer engineering safe for heavy equipment, tanks, heavy vehicles to go across. Like the troops can walk across, but they're not going to be getting resupplied and they're not going to be getting new tanks. And they can't go across the bridge. Even large numbers of troops, they're saying they've got to use pontoon bridges and things like that. And you'll recall the Ukrainians blew up massively a Russian series of pontoon bridges way back at the beginning of the war. Remember, it was a disaster in eastern Ukraine, and the Ukrainians waited until the Russians got like almost all the way. It was like the parable of the scorpion and the whatever animal and carrying on its back and then it stung it. They waited until the Russians got literally 7/8 of the way across the bridge and then blew the bridge, taking all the tanks with it. And then all the tanks and troops that were waiting on shore in line, they blew them up. So the same thing could happen here, that the Russians are now having to wait for pontoon bridges. In any case, that gives you a sense of the shaping I was talking about at the beginning, where the Ukrainians kept blowing up those 3 bridges along the river in order to stop the Russians from getting supplies north of the river and to stop the Russians north of the river from having an escape. Well, what happened now? The Russians north of the river are getting attacked from the north, from 4 or 5 different places. So that kind of pulls all the news together of what we've been hearing the last couple of months, that the Ukrainians were preparing for this moment. What else we got on that? The Ukrainian military also claimed today that it struck a large Russian military base behind Russian lines in the Kherson region, so in the same region, destroying it. As I said, Ukraine is not talking about the details, and they've asked people not to not to be sharing videos of attacks and things like that. I mean, the stuff I'm telling you is very simple stuff, so to speak, but they want people to be very careful about sharing videos of attacks so the Russians aren't able to sort of figure out what's going on. What else we got here? Yep, may or may not be indicative of a larger counteroffensive, I was telling you. That's about it. And then the final thing with Belgorod, which was interesting, is somebody was saying over on our Discord earlier, I was just checking it out before coming to you guys, my Discord, it's at discord.aravosis.com, that there was some kind of an unconfirmed report of a witness that saw a rocket or something flying over Belgorod, and the witness at least was saying that it looked like it was a long-range rocket, the kind of rockets we don't think the Ukrainians have, that the U.S., at least in principle, has not given the Ukrainians. So who knows? There's been this ongoing debate as to whether Ukrainians have gotten longer-range missile systems or not from us, or developed them themselves, or gotten them from a third party. But again, the people of Belgorod are kind of freaking out. The other big story today is Zaporizhzhia, which is the nuclear plant. Thank you, Bonnie, for that. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, I'll just pull up Zaporizhzhia here. I'll say I've got a picture of that too, but it's almost easier just to pull it up. There we go, Zaporizhzhia Oblast. So Zaporizhzhia, well, that's not too bad. So first, let me show you. So I don't like Google Maps, only because Google Maps, I think they don't provide enough contrast. I swear to God, Google Maps, I've always said, are made for like young people under 25. Anybody over 25, you're like, I want bigger words and I want more contrast. But I will still show you this. You will see Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, in the northwest. You will see Kharkiv in the northeast. And then you will see Crimea and then Zaporizhzhia. So Zaporizhzhia is that region or state you see right there. Okay, you see it right there, Zaporizhzhia. I'll show you guys next. You see how it's above Crimea? Well, Zaporizhzhia is right next to Kherson. The Kherson region is right there. So if you were just to go south, right north of Crimea and right southwest of Zaporizhzhia is Kherson. Okay? Show you guys real quick just so you see. So that's the Zaporizhzhia region. Okay? As I said, it's right northeast of Kherson. The town of, actually not even the town. I'm going to show you where the nuclear plant is. There we go. More or less where I just put the peg is where the nuclear plant is. Okay? That's where the nuclear plant is that we've all been talking about. Now, again, and just to give you a sense, so the attack that's going on from the Ukrainians is more or less, Yeah, I'm doing this backwards. It drives me crazy. More or less here. Okay. Like more or less over here is the Ukrainian attack. And you can see where Zaporizhzhia is. Well, that's the nuclear plant we've been worried about because the Russians have been occupying it since March of this year. It is Ukrainian territory, but the Russians are occupying it. And there have been lots of explosions. Thank you for the dog there. Who got me the dog? Sorry, I'm like, it's taking a while for there we go, for the comments to catch up. Melissa, thank you for the husky. There's been a lot of dispute as to who's been bombing the plant, but there's been a lot of explosions going off around the plant, including, and actually, I think I have a picture of this one too, including in the last day or so, there was a hit at the top of the plant. Actually, not the top of the plant, right next to the reactors themselves. God, like a couple 100 feet away. So, you're talking a couple 100 meters. Oops. Recent. See if I've got it right here. I know I downloaded it today. Okay. I don't have it handy. Oh, actually, I've got a big blow up of one of the pictures. That's one of the pictures in the roof of a building right next to the nuclear reactor, to the reactor itself. But a satellite picture showed that there were 3 holes in the roof of the building right across from the reactor. And I'm talking literally across from the reactor. It's like my mom's house across the street. It's that close. What's happening now, the IAEA, which is the UN nuclear body, so to speak, United Nations, the International Atomic Energy Agency, their inspectors are going to be coming now to Zaporizhzhia. They reached a deal with the Russians and the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians were not the problem. The Russians were the problem. They're going to be coming on, they're due to arrive in Kyiv on August 2nd, and they're expecting to, not August 2nd, I'm sorry. It said August 2nd. That's not right. I think they arrive in Kyiv today, I think is what I read. And they're going to begin their work on the plant in the next few days. So it's going to be a few days before they get to the plant. The new image I just told you shows 3 hits on the building right next to the reactor. The U.S. has been demanding, along with Europe, to establish a demilitarized zone around the reactor. The Russians not only occupy the reactor, they literally occupy the reactor. They have put military equipment inside the reactor. They have put armored personnel carriers next to the reactor. They claim they didn't have any heavy military equipment near the reactor. They lied. They absolutely lied. And so we don't know where this fire is coming from near the reactor. The thing is, you've got Zaporizhzhia. The city is sort of northeast of there. It's free. It's not occupied by the Russians. But then when you get south, the reactor is almost near the front, really, of Ukraine versus Russia. So you could have a lot of fire going on near there and accidentally hitting near the reactor as well. So it's not clear, I would say, that one side or the other is trying to hit the area near the reactor. It could just be a mistake because it's right on the front of the war. But what the U.S. is demanding and Europe's demanding is that they demilitarize the area around the reactor, and the Russians again today refused, which frankly tells you all you need to know. Now, one of the theories which I believe that the Russians are up to is they're trying to scare the hell out of everybody. It's basically a terrorist threat. They look at the reactor as being a dirty bomb. A dirty bomb, you might have heard the term before. A dirty bomb is regarding nuclear material, but it's not a nuclear bomb, like a nuclear bomb that literally goes off and it's a nuclear bomb, right? The big mushroom cloud. A dirty bomb is when you take a regular bomb, but you basically tie nuclear material to it. So when the bomb goes off, it throws the nuclear material all over the place with the explosion of the bomb, but the nuclear material doesn't explode. It doesn't burn or turn into a nuclear explosion. But what does happen, imagine nuclear material that's really dangerous blowing up and flying everywhere. Well, you've now just made everything in that area, maybe within a block, maybe within at least several hundred feet, totally nuclear. And if the wind's blowing, it's going several blocks away. It's a dangerous weapon, but it's a terror weapon. It's to scare the hell out of people, right? Imagine something like this happens downtown in your city. People would flee the city, even though it's really going to probably, I'm saying, going to stay into a discrete area in the downtown. So the thought is that the Russians are doing this because they want to freak out Europe. They want Europe to be worried about, oh my God, now there's a nuclear threat. Oh my God, this war is going on too long. We need to weigh in with Ukraine and tell them to stop the war, right? So the Russians are playing a cute little game here. That's why they don't want to demilitarize the area. It still is interesting to me that they're letting the inspectors come at all. I'm very surprised about that. I'm not sure why the Russians are allowing that. The U.S. reportedly said today, I've not seen confirmation of this, but I saw it quoted by somebody I trust, that the U.S. said today that it was recommending Ukraine shut down the reactors entirely. There's 6 reactors there. I believe it's 6 in the plant area overall. And the U.S. is saying it would be safest if they just shut down the reactors. The problem is this is 20% of Ukraine's energy. That's a hell of a lot of energy to be shutting down. So it's not clear that that's a very good solution for Ukraine, especially as we start to head into winter. I mean, the cold months begin in Ukraine pretty much in October, well, pretty much in most of the world, northern world, in October, right? So anyway, it ain't good. Finally, I wanted to show you a picture. The Ukrainian nuclear agency, Energoatom, they're called, however you pronounce it in Ukrainian, they put up an image showing what the fallout would be like if the plant melted down. And I'll show you this. It's I'll show you guys first. So that's the plant going south. Obviously, is Crimea. Okay. The red is the worst. Obviously, the yellow is the least. The winds, in other words, go south or east or southeast. Okay. The border with Russia is that if you follow the red line, you see how it starts to get skinny. That's the Russian-Ukrainian border. So you can see the red line of the worst. I'll show you guys in a second on YouTube. The red line in the worst goes across the border and almost hits the town of Rostov-on-Don. That's Rostov. It's in Russian. So Russia is actually, and then south of there is all Russia. So all of this is Russia. So Russia's getting a significant amount of the fallout. I mean, the worst stuff is in Ukraine, but that's not insignificant what would be hitting Russia. Now, you guys, the same thing. So you can see there where the plant is, the red coming off of it's the worst, the orange less bad but significant, the yellow least. And you can see Ukraine gets the worst of it. But then, as I get closer, like I said, you see how there's the line going up dividing Ukraine and Russia. And then you see the town of Rostov in Russia where the red line almost makes it to in the east. That territory is Russian. There's a lot, and that territory south of it is all Russian. That's a lot of territory that would still get hit by radiation if the Russians play games here. So see what happens, but I thought that was interesting to see. Now, in collaborator news, the Ukrainians have been having some successes here. Where was I've got a couple coming up. The one was Alexei Kovalyov, who was I believe the deputy head of Kherson, but you get this, he was a Ukrainian politician, member of parliament in Zelensky's own party. Okay. Zelensky's own party. And when the Russians invaded and took over Kherson, the region, he decided to turn for the Russians. So now he works for the Russians. He's a collaborator. I believe he's the deputy head of the region. He also is in charge of grain for the Russians, which means this is the guy in charge of stealing Ukrainian grain for the Russians and shipping it abroad in Russia's name for Russia's money. That's how much of a traitor this guy is. Well, the Ukrainians tried to kill him. I think they tried to blow him up. And they did. They tried to blow him up in a car bomb in June, and he survived. And he did an interview from the hospital where he said, I think it's, Ukrainian secret services trying to kill me. And he said, the quote was in Ukrainian, fat chance they're going to kill me. Well, they did. Overnight, somebody burst into his home. He was there with his girlfriend. Both he and his girlfriend were shot and killed. It's interesting because a little dispute broke out on TikTok. Only a couple people, but I still was surprised. Kind of made me wonder if the people were real or trolls. But they were upset that the girlfriend got killed. And I will say a couple things. One, we have no idea if she's innocent. We don't know if she's guilty, but we have no idea if she's innocent. The girlfriend could be a collaborator as well, for all we know. Second, we don't know what happened when they burst in. Did he pull a gun and the Ukrainians shot back and the girlfriend died? Right? We don't know. Third of all, she's dating a collaborator. Okay, she's a Ukrainian living in Ukraine, and her Ukrainian boyfriend has now turned and is literally working for the enemy, helping the enemy steal grain, of all things, that is starving Ukrainians. As Psycho just said on TikTok, Ava Braun, who was, I don't like to say his name on TikTok, that guy from World War II's girlfriend was Ava Braun. I think you've got a good argument for her being a collaborator if she is the girlfriend of a collaborator. Because at that point, people were trying to say, well, you're in love. What do? You know what? The Soviet Union or Russia at this point invades America and takes over, and they take over my town, and they're killing my citizens. And literally their goal is to wipe out all my people and like kill us all and destroy our country and our culture. And you decide, like, the person you're dating says, hey, let's help the Russians kill our own people. And you don't say, you know what? I think that's a deal breaker for me. I'm not sure I like you anymore because you literally don't mind genocide. You're helping genocide. To me, that's a deal breaker. So I'm not sure I feel sorry for this one, but also she could be a collaborator as well, although I would say she is a collaborator. She is a collaborator in my view. But it was interesting. A few people were like, I think that's mean. The other argument, actually, I'll bring this up just to talk. The other argument was they were saying that, Ukraine should follow the rules of war and bring her up for trial. And I was like, bring her up for trial where? They're in occupied Ukraine that's occupied by the Russians. The Russians are the law. Are you going to have the Russians arrest her and put her before a Russian judge? Like, are you going to extradite her? The Russians going to extradite her to free Ukraine? I mean, you would literally have to capture these two and sneak them out of Russian-controlled territory for a trial in the rest of Ukraine. How do you do that? You can't do that. There's no way. This isn't Hogan's Heroes, So what do? Your option is either to go in and kill them because they're collaborators and this is a war, or to say, I guess we're just going to let you go because it wouldn't be nice to shoot you. Now, I would be curious though, in the whole rules of war issue, I'd be curious how this works, though, as far as rules of war, whether this is allowed or not. I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure. So the other one. What was this? According to the advisor to the mayor of Mariupol, a Russian patrol was responding. Oh, this was good. The Ukrainian resistance, who are basically the citizens living under occupation, who, unlike this guy and his girlfriend, decide we're going to secretly work with the Ukrainian intelligence and help them do good things behind enemy lines. So they're the resistance. They're like the secret citizens, like me doing this during the day, and at night I'm actually secretly working to stop the Russians from, the Russian invasion of my country, kind of thing, right? So the resistance blew up a Russian patrol in Mariupol, which is an occupied town in the southeast of Ukraine. Remember where the Azov-style steel plant was? According to an advisor to the mayor of Mariupol, and I believe this is the legitimate mayor, not a collaborator, so to speak, the Russian patrol was responding, listen to this, to a fake call by partisans in the early morning of August 29 when they got blown up on their own mines. One soldier was killed and another severely wounded. So it was a Russian patrol. Somehow they put in a fake call, like somebody was in trouble, needed help, and the Russians responded. And I don't know how they got them to blow up on their own mines. I have no idea how they pulled that one off. I mean, whether they knew where the mines were and the Russians themselves weren't communicating well enough with themselves, whether the Ukrainians, I don't know if you can safely move a mine, like whether they actually moved the Russian mine somewhere else, but that's some pretty wild. Yeah, exactly, Maddie. That's Slava Ukraina kind of work there. The other thing is, that's all I've got. Actually, this was not a super heavy news day, in spite of the fact of it being pretty significant news. So that's what I've got. That is what I've got for the news. So questions or whatever, we can chat a little bit, whatever you guys want. But as I said, it was a important news day. But the thing is, Veronica says shitty when you forget where you put a mine. Couldn't you see though the Russians like laying down mines like the military, but not telling the military police where the mines are? Thank you, Flower Lady, for that. I could totally see it. I mean, if it's thank you, Bonnie. If it's like incompetence going on, sure. Well, I mean, Colin, it's an interesting question. I mean, Colin says, let's be honest, the red line stops existing during war. Basically, I think he's saying we were talking about the ethics of killing this guy and his girlfriend rather than trying to bring them up to trial behind lines. The only thing is, I think it is generally important to follow the rules, okay? You don't want to be doing war crimes. And Ukraine doesn't want to be doing war crimes because Ukraine's the good guys. They need world support. They need ongoing support. Thank you, Paul. Ongoing support from countries like ours, other countries where the population in general are not fans of war crimes, right? So that's important. I do think at some point, though, for example, we were talking about the partisans. People were weighing in on this because I thought it was the case, and I remember some of you who actually knew the rules of war were saying that if you are a Ukrainian partisan, if you're again a Ukrainian citizen who is secretly, thank you, Kay, for that, who is secretly working with Ukrainian intelligence, and again during the day you work at a car factory, but at night you lay mines for the Russians. You go and you set up bombs to blow up the collaborationist head of the region, these kind of things, right? That you're supposed to declare yourself, I believe, like you're supposed to wear the armband showing you're Ukrainian and this kind of crazy stuff. And obviously, thank you, Dan, obviously, if you're working secretly and you're going to try to blow up the head of your region who's a collaborationist, or blow up the Russian head of the region, right? Because it's your region that the Russians invaded and they've got, the commandant in charge of your region. You're going to wear an armband so people on the street will go, oh, he's actually he's not a butcher delivering meat. He's actually about to kill some Russians, guy with the armband. I mean, you're not going to do it. So I don't have a problem with something like that. I have a problem with the more obvious war crimes that are immoral. That's the stuff. Killing soldiers you don't have to kill, right? Like once you got somebody captive, killing them just to kill them, that kind of stuff bothers me. I mean, saying it bothers me is making almost light of it. It's that I think is a problem, And there was one report of Ukrainians doing it, video as well, nonstop reports of Russians doing this kind of stuff. So, let me just see some of what you guys are saying on YouTube. Oh, that's interesting. She would have been collateral. Well, that's the question too. Ashley Brown says she would have been collateral damage when we were in Afghanistan. That was the other thing I was going to say. If you're going after the deputy head of the Russian administration, who's a Ukrainian collaborator, and he's got his wife in bed with him, his girlfriend or whatever, that's going to be collateral damage. And it's harsh to say. Collateral damage in military terms means when you go after the bad guys and some good guys are going to be killed. Now, being the good guys, we actually care about that. And people get in trouble when they don't care about it. And there are people in the U.S. military who have gotten into trouble for not caring about simply blowing things up and literally knowing it's next to a school and a bunch of kids will die and not caring. But they get into trouble for it because we're the good guys. The Russians couldn't care less. The Russians could not care less if they blow up civilians. And as we know, the Russians actually believe blowing up civilians is a smart move, is smart policy, right? They do it on purpose. What we're seeing here from Sky Queen. What do you think about the news about a woman pretending to be an heiress? Oh, I know. To be a big bank from Europe. After hearing the details about it, I wonder if she's a Russian spy. Yes, I didn't necessarily want to get into that today. I'm actually going to do, I've decided I'm going to probably do a Trump broadcast tomorrow, another update on everything going on with Trump, because I'm trying not to mix these too much. But I think let's see what happens tomorrow morning before I decide which one I'm going to do, because Ukraine's doing this counteroffensive, If there's a lot of news, then we have to do Ukraine. If there isn't, then maybe I'll do Russia. Let's see what happens. Or maybe not Russia, Trump. It's so easy to intersperse the two words. Or maybe I'll do half and half. Maybe I'll set up 30 minutes of one, 30 minutes of the other. We'll see. But Sky Queen, I'd rather get into more of that tomorrow. Okay. Or maybe in the after chat we do on Discord. But yes, there was a very strange story about a woman who, I want to say she was a Ukrainian immigrant. I don't know if she was a Russian immigrant, but a really strange story of, she like speaks Russian. She pretended to be an heiress, and she pretended to be Anna de Rothschild, one of the Rothschild, the rich banking family. And she was hanging around at Trump's resort in Mar-a-Lago. She had a $170,000 sports car. Mind you, this woman is like the daughter of some guy, some teamster or something in Illinois. I mean, her father was a mechanic. I mean, he was, I forgot what, but he was this blue collar guy that was a regular blue collar guy. And the daughter, who was not wealthy, has a $170,000 car and is pretending she's an heiress, and got her way into Mar-a-Lago, Trump's resort, got to go golfing with Trump and Lindsey Graham, his little best buddy, U.S. Senator. Very weird stuff, especially in view of everything else going on. So that's all I'll say of that right now, because you did bring it up, Sky Queen, so I appreciate it. I didn't want to blow you off, but I'm trying to avoid the Trump stuff right now. Perhaps Ukraine are trying to cause panic with the offensive, so retreating Russians. No, that's possible too. I mean, for example, one of the options is that Ukraine isn't planning a huge counteroffensive, but they're planning enough of a counteroffensive to freak the Russians out and to make the Russians think, "Oh my God, this is it." You know, what is it? What was I? This is the big one. What was that from? Like, was it Jackie Gleason or what? The heart attack thing? I'm like, that was my parents' generation, but I vaguely remember like it's the big one. Thank you, Bonnie. But spooking the Russians into thinking, oh my God, the Ukrainians are, so that the Russian troops are freaking out. Some of the Russian troops may flee. The Russian populace fleeing. Right? We do know Belgorod, like I said, this is the second time that Belgorod, that Russian city right across the border in the Northeast, has freaked out and people have fled the town. And frankly, that's good. Oh, it's Sanford and Son. Oh, yeah. What was it? Wheezy? Is it Wheezy? Is the big one or something like that? I did actually watch Sanford and Son when I was a kid. That was what it was. Yep. Red Fox. Okay. Thank you. That's funny. So who knows? Who knows? It's possible they're faking the Russians out. You know, and what if it's a feint? What if, okay, I was just going to say that Mark Body is saying it's a feint. He thinks they'll attack the East soon. Well, that's possible too. What if they've been going after Kherson? And mind you, the last couple months, especially the last month, the Ukrainians have had the Russians so freaked out in Kherson, that region in the south where the fighting is going on today, where the counteroffensive is happening today, that the Russians have moved troops from the east. And the east was the Russians' big goal. I mean, I say big goal. Their big goal after their other big goals, right? The big goal was taking the capital, Kyiv. They failed. The second big goal was taking Kharkiv, the second largest city in the northeast. They failed. Then they were going to take the two provinces in the east that were Luhansk and Donetsk, which combined are called Donbass. They failed. They were able to get Luhansk, most of it, 98% of it. Donetsk, they're stuck at like 50, 60%. They're not doing well, the Russians there at all. Well, what happened then in the last month, the Russians started freaking out about the Ukrainians getting ready for this counteroffensive in the south, which is, significant distance southwest of the east there. So the Russians started moving troops and tanks over to Zaporizhzhia and over to Kherson, which are the provinces, like if this is Ukraine down here, the east is up here. So they were moving troops here, moving troops here. Well, what if, as he was just saying here on TikTok, what if this is more of a fake? So the Russians think, oh my God, it's happening. And they really, it's like the Eye of Sauron, remember when the eye finally figured out what Frodo was doing and it went, whoop? What if they want like the eye of Putin to go to Kherson while they're getting ready to attack the east? It's possible. And again, they're not talking about it, which is brilliant too, Anyway, I will recap, and I'll recap. I always recap my notes at the very end. So I'll recap the notes of what we discussed today anyway. Well, the country in the east, I mean, the eastern I'll show you guys again on my little map of maps here. It's easier when I'm home in DC because I got my big map. I can show you guys the real map, but nonetheless, I'm going to pull up. And again, I don't like how Google Maps does this because you can't see the border, but Eastern Ukraine, here I will put a pin in Donetsk at least, or close to it. So, sideways doesn't work. So, showing me flowers of Ukraine. That's nice and pretty, but not relevant. So, if you're looking at Ukraine, you see Kyiv in the northeast, although it's kind of in the center of the country. You see Odessa and all that in the south, or you can't see it. The red is Donetsk, which starts to be, it's the sort of the beginning or middle of that region, and there and east of there and northeast is what the Russians are trying to get a hold of. Now, if I zoom in, you can kind of get the idea. It's hard to sort of see on the map, but bottom line, it's that eastern region. Well, guess what surrounds that eastern region? To the east and to the north is Russia. So you see the border, that heavy border is Ukraine on the left and Russia on the east. So for you guys, again, the red dot is Donetsk, which is one of the two regions. And that dark line, of course, is the border with Russia. Kharkiv is Ukraine. So everything east of, not everything, but east across the border is Russia. North across the border is Russia. So all of that is Russia. I forgot why we were even saying that, but nonetheless. It's someone, Dragana. Good to see you again. Oh, thank you. Dragana just wanted the good wishes. Ukraine is completely free before winter. That was nice of her. Thank you. Or I should say, thank you on behalf of the Ukrainians. They can thank you. What else we got? Your friend in Kharkiv had a missile attack close by last night. Yeah, and exactly. You've got to be careful of providing information because, exactly. If, for example, if you take, let's say a missile attack happened nearby and you caught it on, even if you didn't catch it on camera, you said, oh my God, that hit a block from my house. Now the Russians know that missile they sent, where it hit, and now they can adjust potentially, right? And say, aha, it hit here. We wanted to hit here. We can adjust or artillery, blah, blah, blah. So you never want to give them information that they wouldn't have, or it helps them know whether they even destroy, like, oh my God, they just destroyed the ministry next door. Then they know they destroyed the ministry. So you want to be careful on the information you give, which is why the Ukrainians have asked pretty much for sort of a blackout of the news, although it's hard because obviously for the rest of us, you're kind of watching this and you want to know what's happening. You want to know what's going on. They do have the satellites too. Well, they do have the satellites, but they're still, people are very concerned about the Russians getting information when the Lviv in the west. Okay, so there's a town in western Ukraine, one of their bigger cities, Lviv, Lviv, well, in English at least, and it's right near the Polish border. It's the town that the Russians attacked the oil facilities, refineries, or storage, or whatever it is, when Biden was visiting Poland. And remember, Putin was being kind of a jerk, and he decided he wanted to attack. It was a couple hundred miles from where Biden was, but Biden was in eastern Poland. So Putin figured, I'll attack western Ukraine so it's close by to be like, hey. Well, he attacked an oil refiner or the oil storage. And after the first attack, I remember the Ukrainian government saying, please don't show images of it because it will help the Russians out. And I don't know why, because they do have spy satellites, but somehow the images themselves, I don't know if anybody, are any of you military or former military or even former intelligence that can help us? Like, why would those images give you more information than a spy satellite would? Let me see. There's a bit of a way of reporting a lot of things without getting super specific, but why is specific risky? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I know specific can be risky when, hold on here. Because going to get along. Yeah, just trying to see what it is. But wouldn't the amount of damage done again be something the Russians could tell from a spy satellite? But again, wouldn't the damage be from a spy? Wouldn't you see it in a spy satellite? Oh, that's interesting. He's okay. News.jpg is saying artillery officers don't have the training to parse daily intelligence. meaning the daily satellite imagery. They want plain language info. So for them, it would be very useful to have somebody say, aha, it hit a block away from this guy's house that his image geolocates to right here on the map. Okay, that tells me something. But if they've got to wait for the satellite imagery, it takes time for the Russians to get the satellite imagery, to download it, to analyze it, and to ship it to Ukraine for it to make its way. So that's it then. Actually, you know what, too? You're getting an instantaneous response. You're getting instantaneous feedback. If I go, holy shit, that was a block from my house, and I tweet it, or I put it on Telegram, you literally know seconds after the bomb went exactly where it landed. Whereas, right, to use satellite, you've got to wait till daytime, probably. Mind you, if it's at nighttime, you got to wait till the day. Okay, now I'm starting to put this more together. This is making sense. Sorry, let me see what a few of you were saying here on an MT history buff is saying because satellites aren't always accurate or timely and can be tracked, whereas social reports can be faster and in appropriate context. I think the speed thing especially, yeah, the speed thing, because I hadn't thought of it, but literally a social response can be immediate and tell you close enough to where it is, or you take the image and at least looking at the image, somebody who knows the town, a collaborator would say, oh, that image was filmed from this part of town, which means the bombing, it probably hit here. But again, satellites are going to tell you the next day when it's light out and it takes a while to get there. The other thing is Dragana is saying they can't, the satellites can't see the small details. That's a fair point too. Right. The satellite imagery, I mean, depending how detailed it is, but, well, actually, here's the other problem too. I hadn't thought about. But, you know, one of the issues with spy satellites is we don't release images from our spy satellites unless we're very careful, because we don't want the Russians to know how good our spy satellites are. So if the Russians have got the details, they don't want to necessarily, I mean, I guess they would think about it. The Russians wouldn't want to provide the spy satellite data to some guy on the ground, because also that's not the way the Russian military works, right? One of the biggest problems the Russian military is having is they're so centrally controlled, unlike our military, unlike military in the West, that they've got to wait for somebody very senior to tell them what to do. So in a military like that, it's not like they're saying, oh, here's the daily satellite photo, Boris, who's a mechanic or whatever, you know, who runs an artillery, whatever, howitzer, have a look and determine. Boris isn't looking at the satellite imagery. He can't figure it out, and it's too highly classified, because if Boris has it, the Ukrainians could get it and the Americans could get it. Thank you, Azamak, for that. So what happens is you've got to have an intelligence analyst to get the satellite imagery, analyze it, and somehow get it to Boris. Well, that guy's not talking to Boris. That guy's boss's boss is talking to Boris's boss's boss. Think about that too, because we are talking about Russia. Imagine how long it takes for intelligence like that to get to, you know, Boris on the ground, if at all. Empty History is saying, and if their spy satellites are up to the same technological par as their other equipment, they're likely janky Cold War holdovers. It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Yep. Very interesting. Oops. It slows the comments down occasionally and then catches them up all of a sudden. Thank you, Azabek. Yep, I thanked you. Yeah, Boris isn't getting situation reps from the satellite guy. That's exactly it too, right? It's too that's really interesting. Okay, yeah, so that's why they don't want the Russians getting these reports on what's been hit and everything else. Thank you, Tom, for those. Because they're not getting it, because the Russians on the ground who are actually firing the weapons are not getting the updates they need to be able to reposition. So if they get it from social media, that's really bad. Yeah. No, it's true. I remember on Twitter, I was in France at the time, and I was really bummed because we had an earthquake in Washington, D.C. And I mean, Washington, D.C. does not get earthquakes. And I don't know now if it hit the whole East Coast of the United States. It might have been 8 years ago, maybe. But I was in France in August. I mean, I love being in France, but I'm working and I'm on Twitter, and all of a sudden I see somebody on Twitter go, oh my God, what was that? Oh my God. And then everybody starts chiming in. Oh my God. And it started with people in Boston. And then it dropped down to New York, and I'm talking whether it was a half a minute or a minute later to New York, and then a minute later, DC. But it was the most amazing thing to watch this real time on social media, watching an event happen. And it's 2012. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy comparison, but it's the same idea in that things are happening real time events, and you can follow them on social media. And if you're trying to position a gun, that may help you do it. And yeah, by a 24-hour wait, it's too late anyway. Exactly. The turnaround will be too slow. Thank you, Louis, for that. Okay, now we know. I don't know why the Russians are reluctant to bomb Kyiv. I find it very strange. I mean, these are people who are war criminals, right? Who are committing genocide, but they don't want to bomb Kyiv. And I don't know why. I really don't. I mean, why wouldn't you have at least sent cruise missiles to blow up all the Ukrainian ministries? I mean, it's very strange. It's very strange. Yeah, so. Oh, that's true. I know. Yeah, Blake is saying Kyiv is protected by Patriot missiles. I don't know if it's Patriot missiles. I keep forgetting. Do they have Patriots finally? I thought we didn't give them Patriots. Did we finally give them Patriots? Did we? If anybody knows. I thought we were talking about it. Nonetheless, I know Kyiv is well protected, that the Russians have had a hard time. No Patriots. That's what I thought. Yeah, well, the NASAMS, they just got more. They had NASAMS a month ago, and they're getting more of them now. Yep. Yeah, okay. Either way, we know it's very well protected. We know the Ukrainians have done a very good job shooting down Russian missiles coming in. But some have hit Kyiv. I mean, some have definitely hit Kyiv. It's well protected. Okay, no Patriots, but well protected. Okay. Well, that's possible, yeah. Aquali Moose is saying Kyiv is a historic city and Putin wants to take it in good condition since it's a symbol and even Russians would be mad if it got destroyed. Okay. Well, I guess that's true. If you're thinking of it as this is my land that I'm taking back. Now, Putin doesn't care that he's killing. He doesn't care that he's destroying cities across Ukraine. Kharkiv, they didn't mind destroying Kharkiv, but I think that's the difference, right? Kharkiv, well, ironically, because Kharkiv is even more Russian than Kyiv, but they were fine destroying Kharkiv, but Kyiv they wanted to keep clean. And maybe it is also because once you're the victor, he wants to have his victory. They wanted to have a victory parade, or at least the reports we heard were that the Russians that were captured had their formal uniforms they brought with them, the Russians that were coming from the north to take Kyiv in those first few days, because they thought they were going to win in 3 days and they were going to have a little parade. So you're right. Putin wants hell, it probably was going to be Putin himself, like Hitler going through Paris. Putin wanted to come through and do his little thing through Kyiv. I hope Biden's back channeling stuff. Oh, back channel negotiating. I was hoping it was back channel weapons. No, that is possible too. Right. It is possible that Biden set some kind of thing and said, right, you hit Kyiv and all bets are off. But correct, Ragana. That's what I'm wondering too, is if Putin thinks they're his, he doesn't want to destroy all the ministries. And, well, also, too, think about this, too. If you want to take over the country, right, and put your own puppet in charge, you need those ministries intact for when you finally take over the country. Like, I mean, it's an interesting question. Like, if you destroy all those ministries, it might be easier to take over the country. I don't know. But also, it's going to be harder to govern the country. So who knows? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What else we got, guys? Just a few more minutes. And then I wanted to give you an update on the fundraisers. So, well, exactly. Putin would say we didn't bomb it anyway. Right. Yeah. Someone set off a cigarette. Exactly. He blamed it on the Ukrainians. It was the Ukrainians fighting us. They blew up their own ministries. Of course he would, yeah, Alaska gets a lot. Yeah, of earthquakes we're talking again. Sorry. What else we got here, guys? What else we got here? Yep. Well, sorry. Actually, I should look at my questions in here. Sorry about that. I've been reading them in the comments, but I will look also on TikTok in the Q&A. Sorry about that. Although we've been doing it there. Any news on Griner release? Zero. Zippo. Brittany Griner, who's the women's basketball star who the Russians kidnapped. Nothing on that. Biden is having a primetime speech tonight. That's interesting. I did not know that. What's it about? Let's see here. I will watch it since I am a geek. Biden prime time. Oh, good for him. About democracy. Ooh. Oh, that's good. That's very interesting. Good. Good. And he's going to be talking about how the core principles of our country, our democracy, is at stake. Ooh. That's good. Yep. Biden will speak about how the core values of this nation are standing in the world, our democracy are at stake, according to the White House. He will talk about the progress we have made as a nation to protect our democracy, but how our rights and freedoms are still under attack. And he will make clear who is fighting for these rights, fighting for these freedoms, and fighting for our democracy. Now, this is very interesting because I would say this is an important speech. It's also a political speech, believe it or not. I mean, I say this because clearly I wish Biden had said this earlier, but Biden last week came out and accused the Republicans of basically embracing, he called it semi-fascism, is what he called it, talking about Donald Trump and he specifically mentioned the MAGA movement, right? Donald Trump's Make America Great Again, the MAGA, as we call it in English, movement. And it was great Biden did it. It's something Biden has not been willing to really do before. He's once or twice said stuff and the Republicans said, "You're being mean." And then he went, I'm sorry, I'm being divisive. And we were all kind of going, Joe, what are you doing? So Biden did this a few days ago. He's sticking to it. He did not apologize. Republicans demanded an apology, and he's hitting even harder. So Biden is doing this speech tonight as a way of continuing this message. I also will say, so I mean, part of this is politics in the sense of part of this is about the election. Okay. Clearly, and I will say Donald Trump is back in the news again. And Donald Trump has been happy to be back in the news. Every day now, Donald Trump is going nuts on his social media platform, Truth Social, which he's been using since Twitter booted him off after he tried to overthrow our government violently. And Trump has been every day saying kooky stuff. He called today for another election immediately because Biden isn't the president and the election was faulty. I forgot yesterday he did some other crazy thing. He retweeted yesterday or however you share on that stupid thing. Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican, pretty much called for violence nationwide if Trump is prosecuted. And Trump, of course, shared that. So Trump has put himself at the front of national news again, and Republicans are getting worried that it's not helping them. That, along with the abortion story, and along with the fact that Biden has been able to get some things done lately, and it's starting to change the narrative. Prices are coming down significantly. Gas prices have come down significantly. The economy is still hanging in there. The gross domestic product has gone down for 2 quarters, but jobs are growing. We're still having jobs growth, which means the economy is not in a recession yet. So people are starting to feel a little bit better. Anyway, so what Biden's doing is what he should have done. I mean, and I say this, I'm willing to admit it. I think he's being political because of the election, but he's telling the truth. Biden is saying something he should have been saying for the last year and a half. He should have been accusing the Republicans of fascism and calling them on it and making them own it and all of that. He hasn't been, but he is now. And what is really interesting, and I say this as a political guy, who's been in Washington for 30 years, almost 40 years. I moved to Washington in 1985, and only 2 years in New York of those. That what is interesting to me is that Biden did the semi-fascist comment last week. He was called out to apologize, and rather than apologizing, which Biden often does, he'll say something like this, and then he'll go, I didn't mean to be that rough. And you're like, Joe, stop. He's doubling down on it, which is something he usually doesn't do. So the fact that Biden is doubling down on it means Biden got sufficient feedback that Biden is now comfortable with the message. And that's interesting because I think Biden isn't comfortable with a lot of messages. And as much as I think he can be kind of an ass, when he's an ass publicly, he feels bad. I think it's his Catholic guilt thing kicks in and then he feels bad later. he's not feeling bad and he's doubling down. And the fact that he's making it like a primetime address during primetime here, meaning between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern when everyone's watching TV, is very interesting. Yeah. So no, that's very interesting politically. That's very interesting politically. So, the speech is Thursday. It's not tonight. Okay. Who told me tonight? Wet noodle for you. It's Thursday. You're right. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. All right. I believed whoever said he was speaking. Or I read it wrong. Sorry about that. Thursday. Okay. It's Thursday. Anyway, all right, guys, let me give you a quick, I will do the quick summary of the news, but let me give you a quick update first. So 2 things going on. We've got an auction in my Discord for anybody. The Discord is free. It's discord.aravosis.com. Much of the discussion happens in the free part, but I certainly am happy for folks to become paid subscribers because that keeps me alive. So I certainly appreciate that. And the paid subscribers can bid in our auction that we set up. And we've already had one thing go for sale or auction. The other one that's going right now, okay, Troll, goodbye, Troll. The other one that I've got up right now is this one, this men's Vyshyvanka. It's actually a very pretty one. It's one that I think it's very pretty. I love the design. But this one we're auctioning off right now. I think Melissa's got the high bid down there for 80. So if folks are sure interested, it goes till Wednesday. So keep that in mind. And the other thing is, as you know, I've been trying to raise money for this crazy idea. We've got $2,200 so far. I would like to raise $5,000. It is for, well, let me tell you first directly what it's for. The money will go to a nonprofit helping Ukrainian troops. The kind of things the money has gone for so far: Starlink internet systems, pickup trucks, thermal sights, so like night vision goggle kind of things, radios, medicine, food, sleeping bags. So it's all kind of stuff. At least from what I'm seeing, it's not going for weapons or anything. It's been going for good stuff that the troops need. Not that I'd have a problem personally donating for weapons. I have, in fact, donated to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. But we've raised $2,200. I want to raise $5,000 because if we raise $5,000 as a thank you, we get to put a message of our choice on the side of a Ukrainian howitzer, artillery shell piece, not just shell, the piece. And we get our message on the side of the gun. It stays there for the war. They will take video of the gun shooting off with our message on it. And I just think it would be incredibly cool. If we don't, we're at 2,235. Not quite halfway there. I still think there's a chance, since this is something that is literally going to go for the troops, I'd like to see if we could maybe raise some more. And again, you will notice I don't do a lot of fundraisers for me, and I should, because I do need to start making more money doing this. But this money 100% is going to Ukraine because I think that's best for this kind of fundraiser. So 100% of the money goes to Ukraine. We've got 2,235. As a last resort, if we don't get enough, there are lesser options like putting the message on an artillery shell, and they'll literally do video of your shell going into the artillery howitzer and shooting, which is kind of cool too. But I think having the name permanently on the howitzer or having our message would be really cool. The message can be whatever we want. Folks have made a lot of good suggestions. What I think I'm going to do is have you guys recommend a lot. Well, first we've got to see what we get. Okay. If we raise enough money, or however much money we raise, I'll let you know what we can buy and what our options are. And then we'll have a bit of a contest. You guys can make suggestions for what message we put. And I will winnow those down to like the best, and then we can have you guys vote on them, and we'll do it that way. As long as it's a good message, sunflower could be neat. I think our TikTok community, I'd love it to be signed by our TikTok community. So like at Aravosis, but I want a message, I want a good message. So the drone thing is hard, Mark, because we can't buy drones from here and ship them. I looked into this at the beginning of the war, and U.S. export controls and everything else, very weird. So I would be happy for us to help buy drones from someone over there who, we trusted and could do it. One of my concerns, at least at the start of the war, was I didn't want for example, my friend Vlad. I told him, I said, Vlad, you'd have to be public, and I'm not sure I want you being public buying drones with your guys' donations. I said, because then the Russians know you're buying drones. And he was like, yeah. I even told him, I said, I'm not comfortable doing it because I don't want to put the name of the person getting us drones. You know what I mean? So we couldn't figure out a way to do it that would be safe and would work. But in any case, this is what we're doing for this. As I said, the money raised so far has been specifically for this, so that can be for a future fundraiser. Oh, no, I did not. So anyway, there you go, guys. All right. I will tell you a quick message John Hoover put here. And then Big Bertha never misses. That's funny. I know there's a lot of fun stuff we can put. I mean, like I said, if I were just doing it myself for like $150 or whatever, I was going to put on there, my dog hates you too. Or even my dog hates you, or my dog hates you too. Or my little dog too. He's like, and your little dog too. Oh no, you know what I would do? Oh my God. You know what I would do? I would put the message Surrender Dorothy on there. That's what I would put personally. I mean, anybody who's old enough is going to get it and love it. Also, American helps on this one, but Surrender Dorothy. I think we could sit here all day and talk about the messages we'd put. It would be hilarious. I know, not supposed to be fun, but you know what? Sometimes you're allowed to laugh. You can't sit here and be all doom and gloom the entire time. So I hear you, Miguel, but like I said, sometimes we got to let our hair down. And if we can help the Ukrainian troops and tell a good joke at the same time, I'm fine with it. The weapons are firing anyway, so we're not responsible for the weapons. So I have no problem with at least, and frankly, making the Ukrainian troops laugh a little. They won't get the Dorothy, but they may get some of the other stuff. Yes. Oh, yes. And the T-shirt. And the final thing again, the T-shirt. I am wearing one of the T-shirts. This is from one of the Ukrainian kids, the drawing. So it's I forget, it says Slava Ukraina on the top, and I'm forgetting what the bottom one says. But this is an example of one. And of course, like I said, it depends on the angle of the light. It's actually much darker than it looks. On here, it doesn't look as dark. But I will say this for Represent. I've been very happy because it fits. And I haven't washed it. I should wash it because God knows chemicals on shirts. But one thing I've liked is it fits. I mean, it fits my collar. It fits, like, whenever I get shirts from these kind of companies, they never fit. The collar is always goofy and, hanging down. The sleeves are always wrong. Like they've been made in God knows where. At least for me, I can never find clothing that fits me when I buy it online at a place like this. You know what I mean? The other ones were those shirts I bought, like the Russian, the Ukrainian maps that I bought online. Those were the other ones that fit great, and I was shocked. So anyway, but yeah, so the store is at erevosis.com. Let's go, guys. Let's head over to the Discord. We can hang out for a little bit before dinner here in Chicago. Moose, with love, Moose and Squirrel. Now that actually, oh yeah. Well, and maybe say Boris and Natasha or something. Yeah. Moose and Squirrel would be a pretty funny one to say as well. Because you're right. The I know. Oh, I don't know, Mom. But we're having probably a very simple meal tonight. Maybe meatballs or something. That's right. Let me do the recap. I'm sorry. We'll do the quick recap and then go over to Discord for a few minutes. The counteroffensive appears to have begun. The Ukrainians have attacked in multiple points north of the Dnipro River, east of Kherson City. A number of villages have already been liberated, at least 4. The Ukrainian military also claimed on Monday to have struck a large Russian military base behind Russian lines and destroyed it. Ukraine is remaining mum about the details. Also, there appears to have been some kind of an attack by the Ukrainians against the Russian town of Belgorod, but we don't know the details because, again, the Ukrainians are being very careful, which is smart. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, a delegation from the International Atomic Energy Agency should be heading there in the next few days. New satellite imagery shows that there were 3 hits by shrapnel or something, bombs, on a building right across the street from the nuclear plant, which is not good news. So there you go. That's bad news. it's funny when I do it quickly, there's not a lot. I mean, there wasn't a lot of news, but we actually spent half an hour on the news because we were discussing a lot. A Ukrainian collaborator trader who decided to work for the Russians once they invaded Kherson. Alexei Kovalyov was blown up, not blown up. He was blown up in his car on June 22nd, but survived and defiantly said, fat chance the Ukrainians will ever blow me up. And they killed him and his girlfriend in bed last night. And finally, the Ukrainian resistance also blew up a Russian patrol in Mariupol by faking them out, by doing some kind of a fake call that made the Russian patrol come out in the early morning to help. And somehow they got the Russians to blow up on their own landmines. God knows how, but the Ukrainians are magic. So, all right. Oh, that's funny. All right. I'm putting that up, folks, John, for folks to see. All right, guys, I am going to head over to our Discord, discord.erevosis.com. Oh, thanks, user. I will say this, user. It's funny you say that, but I worked on Capitol Hill and I'm a lawyer, and I learned how to brief an important boss. And it's something, folks. Sorry, user just said he's been through intelligence briefings, and mine was just as good. When you have important bosses, you have to learn how to brief a boss and cut to the details and cut to the. Anyway, so thank you. I try. That's what I try to do for you guys. I try to be like, okay, pull the information together. What is it actually telling us, and what does it mean? And short enough that hopefully you don't get bored. Like Donald Trump, where then I've got to do lots of pictures for you, and I can't do pictures. I don't draw very well. All right, let's go. I will set up, I think tomorrow morning I'll set up the next day's thing. It'll be 6 o'clock Eastern tomorrow anyway, our next thing on all of you. But I'm going to wait till the morning and see if it's a Ukraine update or a Trump update, or both. I may do half an hour of each or something like that, depending how much news there is. So let's see. But I do want to talk about Trump and the ongoing and Biden's speech, because of Biden's speech is Thursday. That means I'll definitely do probably a Trump thing on Friday too. Let me see. I'll figure it out in the morning and I'll put it up. But thank you guys. So I'll go to the Discord, as I said, discord.erevosis.com. When you get there, go to the left column, go all the way down to the voice channels and look for John's after show. Or after party, whatever I called it, and I'll be there. Okay? All right. Goodbye, you all. And you guys.